welcome back to another Money Tip Monday. Today we're going to be talking all about FIRE. And not quite what you think. We're going to be talking about the retirement strategy of financial independence, retire early. It's been a video that you guys have been requesting me to make, and to be a little candid, I'm a little reluctant just because this is a channel that I like to talk about practical tips on spending and savings, and this, well, isn't all that practical. But we're gonna get into that a little bit more here after you guys subscribe and like this video. So what the heck is the FIRE movement? Well, the original concepts for this movement actually derived from a book called Your Money, Your Life, written by Vicki Robbins and Joe Dominguez back in 1992. So the reason this movement's become so popular is because there's been a major movement towards minimalism. So how can you be frugal? How can you live with less? We have tiny home concepts. And I really feel like this less is more type of lifestyle that derived from our recession is why this strategy has become so popular. Essentially what it is maximizing the amount of savings that you have and then controlling your expenditures, right? So essentially in a typical financial strategy, you would save anywhere between 10 to 15%. As you did debt reduction, that would end up growing somewhere between 20 and 30%. Now, FIRE actually says, hey, we're gonna scrap that and we're gonna reverse it. What we're gonna try to do is live on the least amount possible, right? So we're gonna try to live off of, 50 to 30% of our income, and then we're gonna save the rest. I just think that most of America just can't apply these tactics, but I do think that there are many, many cool concepts for, how to implement a higher saving strategy that might benefit you. And I have some numbers here that might blow your mind. The average person saves anywhere between 10 to 15% of their net take-home income. So if you were to do that, it takes 9 years worth of work to save up 1 year's worth of living expenses. I thought that's kind of nuts, which is why it takes us forever to retire. If you were to save at 25%, it takes 3 years to save 1 year's worth of living expenses. If you did 50% on average, that saves 1 year would save 1 year's worth of living expenses. If you're able to live off of 25% of your net take-home income and save 75%, this is the one that blew my mind. You could save 3 years worth of living expenses in 1 year. I mean, that is huge. Now, some critics of the FIRE program say, how could you possibly do that? I mean, this is a program that's literally just geared towards rich people, and that the average Joe can't accumulate this kind of wealth. And then the people who are, pro this concept, they're like, just live with less, learn to get a roommate, cut your cable. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could probably accomplish this, but not without huge lifestyle sacrifices. Now, one more thing I'd like to mention, just because some of the articles I read about when you could retire were pretty extreme, I thought, like retiring at 30 or 40. The average lifespan now in 2019 is close to 80 years old. If you were gonna retire at, let's say, the age 30 or the age 40, we're talking about 50 years worth of living expenses that you would need. And, depending on how much you're earning or how aggressive your savings pattern is, would that be enough to sustain 50 years? Just some feedback there, not saying it's good or bad, just food for thought, because I always like to be the person that points out the good and the bad with both things. And for me, as something that, would I recommend this to my clients? Again, just like velocity banking, I just don't think it's super practical. And this channel is all about practicalities. So no, this isn't something I'm gonna go, oh my God, everyone run out and do this. Now, one of the other things that I really thought of when I was thinking about retiring early is that just because you retired from the 9 to 5 job doesn't mean that retirement means you don't work or that you're not earning. There's so many things that people do in their later on years to earn money or to have a part-time job. It just means that they're no longer grinding out the 9 to 5. And so I just think that's an important concept to think about, especially for some of those critics that say, hey, you're never gonna be able to live on this for 50 years. It doesn't mean that you won't have any other supplemental types of income. The thing I love the most about this concept is that it's all about controlling your expenditures. I think that sometimes we are willy-nilly with how we spend things. We're very aggressive on the Starbucks habit. Remember when I said that the average person spends like $1,700 a year on Starbucks? If you were 100% goal-oriented on retiring early, you would be so hyper-focused on what you spent your money on. This to me is like my absolute favorite concept with the FIRE method. And then my very last thing that I love about it is this whole element of control. I feel like for me, with life, work, and hopefully you can relate, it never feels like it's 100% within our control, right? Like we're just kind of going with the flow. We work until, we get up to this age when we're just so exhausted and Social Security is gonna kick in and we have enough retirement assets, but it never 100% feels like we are in control of our life and when we stop working. This is the kind of method that says, hey, you're in the driver's seat. If you're willing to make these sacrifices, willing to do these things, you can retire at this age and have the life that you really want. If it's something that you can implement, by all means, guys, I think it gets a 2 thumbs up for me. But overall, I just don't think that it's doable. And if you are a consistent saver, anywhere between 10, to 15% every single month and paying down debt, I think you're gonna get ahead. It's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, right? We know that the tortoise always wins because he's consistent and diligent, and hits his savings goals. And we know with fad diets and fad savings, right? We tend to go, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and then, oh, I stopped doing this somewhere along the way. So be the tortoise, be consistent, save your money, and if you'd like me to go over any more financial concepts, definitely hit me up and I will do my research. Thank you guys for tuning in to another Money Tip Monday, and I will see you next week.